Well, I'm here with my friend, Dr. Michelle Sands from glownaturalwellness.com. We're talking about optimizing female hormones to reduce inflammation and thrive in life. And she's a female hormone expert. So you guys are in for a treat here. And let's start, Dr. Michelle. I mean, I've known you now for several years, and you're a fierce advocate for natural, toxin-free solutions for hormone health. Why do you think traditional medicine has failed midlife women, and how does your approach to root cause medicine and plant-based bioidentical hormones address these gaps?
Oh my God, what a loaded question. How has conventional medicine failed midwife women? Pretty much in every aspect.
Yeah.
Women are not included in studies, like for the longest time. Like only 1993 was like when the first women were included in studies that had to do with any kind of medication, medical procedure, medical appliance, anything that had to do with your health. It was just done on men, and mostly like men in their 20s. Then they started adding women in, so like yay, but then they only added women in that were on birth control pills because our cycles are very confusing and it was unpredictable, and they would have to time the studies if they had to like do it for a woman when she was on ovulation phase or her luteal phase. So they only did studies on women that are on birth control pills. And only recently
I didn't know
are
that.
women
That's
who are
interesting.
not on birth control in the studies, and it's still not very common. Like
Hmm.
usually you're actually like not eligible to be in the study if you're not on birth control pills, which is crazy.
So, so their philosophy is sterilize the woman, then we can study them, basically.
Yeah, just because women are so complicated because of the hormones. That's what the medical
Yeah.
community, and that's part of a lot of the reason why women aren't getting help for their hormone issues
Hmm.
in their teens, in their 20s, postpartum, and in menopause is because the complication of it. It doesn't really fit in with our medical system, conventional medical system's way of doing medicine. Because what most people don't know that when they go to the doctor, they tell the doctor their symptoms, and their doctor is like typing on their little keyboard, right? What they're typing is they're typing your symptoms, and then they get a code, and the code tells them
Hmm.
what the medication they should prescribe is, and they name your symptom or your condition. For women, a lot of it's fatigue, weight gain, mood swings, skin issues, gut issues. These all could be symptoms of hormone imbalance. They could be symptoms of thyroid imbalance. They could be symptoms of so many different things, parasites, inflammation, heavy metals, so many things. But when we hear these symptoms that all kind of go in a cluster, the doctors will put those in and they'll be like, oh, hormone imbalance. And the answer to that is birth control pills. It doesn't matter if it is estrogen dominance, low progesterone, PCOS. It's always going to be the birth control pill. And then if your symptoms are really bad, they might give you an antidepressant too. And I say this from experience because when I was in my teens, early teens, actually 12 years old, preteen, I was brought to the doctor because I had horrible periods, like horrible pain. I want to stay home from school. And I was put on the birth control pill at age 12. And my mom swore me to secrecy because she was just like, you're not going to tell anyone you're on the birth control pill. She's an Italian mom from New York. And so it was like embarrassing to the family that her daughter was on birth control. And it kind of made me feel bad. But it did regulate things a little bit. My cramps went away a little bit. I had so many other health issues. And then I ended up being diagnosed with ovarian failure at age 20. So many different issues. And later on, like went on to go back to school for medicine, natural medicine, learn about the body, learn about how the systems relate to each other. I had gut issues. I had parasites. I had heavy metal toxicity. I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I had all of these things that were preventing my cycle from
Yeah.
working the way it should and were causing all these symptoms that looked like hormone imbalance, but they were really all these isolated things and different systems in my body, which all meshed together to create the whole problem that I was experiencing. And once I was able to unravel those piece by piece and change my diet, change the way I worked out, start doing some stress reduction activities, get rid of all the toxic things in my environment, the cleaning products, the personal care products, remove the gluten and the dairy, which was not popular when I was in my 20s because that was the 90s. Like people were not talking about gluten and dairy like they're talking about it now. And so it was just normal. And so I had to do some abnormal things back then. But once I was able to do that, it really wasn't ovarian failure. It was ovarian insufficiency. And my ovaries weren't working the way they should because of all these other dysfunctions that were happening in my body, which is your body's innate intelligence, basically. It wasn't a good environment for me to grow a baby with all of those things happening. And so my body is like, shut it down. We're going to make you survive because you have all these other things happening. And then once I was able to restore health in all those systems of the body, my periods came back. I was able to have my son naturally, which is why I'm such an advocate for natural medicine, because I was told by countless doctors that I would never have kids. There was nothing I could do. I was just going to have to be on the antidepressants. I was going to have to be on the pain pills. I was going to have to be on the birth control pill for the rest of my life. And had I believed that, had I kind of bought into that, I wouldn't have my son now. I wouldn't have the company I have today. I wouldn't have my health. I might be just sitting around doing nothing because I'm on all this medication and being depressed. And so whether you have diabetes, whether you have cancer, whether it's hormone imbalance, no matter what it is, do not believe that there's nothing you can do, because the body is constantly restoring, rebuilding, reformatting its cells, and you get new chances every day with all the inputs that you do. Every bite you take, every move you make, every thought you have impacts your cells and your hormones. And so that's the message that I'm so passionate about sharing. And I see every day doctors telling women there's nothing you can do, there's nothing you can do. So much you can do. And so the medical system has failed us because we're told there's nothing we can do. And then when there is things we can do, which is the other part of the question that you asked, why I'm so passionate about the non-toxic plant-based alternatives for hormone balance, what we're putting in our bodies is microplastics, petrochemicals, toxins in the hormone products that, if you're lucky enough to get a doctor to prescribe them for you, now you're putting toxins in your body along with the hormones. And so a lot of the studies that show the hormones are bad for you, it's not the hormone that's bad for you, it's all the toxins that are in the hormones that are bad for you. And I searched for myself all the different avenues, pills, creams, patches, all the different things, and they all have either propylene glycol or microplastics or some other type of petrochemical, and just really bad forever chemicals that are going to stay in your body. If it's something you're going to put in your body for the rest of your life and you're really doing it for longevity, you really want to do the best you can to be as clean as possible. And so that was really become my passion in the last few years, is to make those products available to the public. And I've had to fight the FDA, and I have to fight so many different things just to make them available. And I'll continue that fight, just so that women can have the opportunity to replace their hormones and get that health that they want without having to compromise their really commitment to living a non-toxic lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. You said a lot of really good things there. And, ultimately the body knows how to heal itself. It just needs no interference, but we interfere with it all the time with drugs.
Just the modern world. It is, I always tell people, it is you have to be weird in order to avoid toxins, because it's so easy for us to I could sit right here and I can order food, I can go to school, I can date, I can do everything from this seat without ever getting up. And I can be in air condition, I can be in with the artificial flame retardants on my furniture, on my clothes, using conventional products on my skin. You have to really go out of your way to move your body, because everyone's oh, you want to go get together? We're going to go eat at the Olive Garden, or what it's nothing against the Olive Garden, but it's toxic food. Or, hey, let's go for some drinks. Or you go to the office and there's the thing of cookies. And so you have to be the odd one that's oh, you know what? I'm going to go exercise instead. I'm not going to go out drinking. I'm going to buy the organic skincare product from the farmer's market instead of going to CVS and buying the things on the shelf. And my kids are not going to eat the candy with the red dye number 40 in it. I'm going to give them the organic keto brownie, right? You have to be a little bit strange in order to avoid all the unnatural things in our environment. Our ancestors, they didn't have to say no. Everything was natural back then,
Yeah.
but we have to say no, 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 no so many times.
Yeah, it's so critical. And you talked about birth control pills. What do they actually do to the body, and what sort of risks are associated with taking birth control pills?
Yeah, so birth control pills, and I am also an advocate for feminine rights and women's freedoms and
Hmm.
everything. So the birth control pill did do something good. It allowed women to have, sexual relations without having to get pregnant. And that idea is amazing. And there's other ways to have that happen as
Hmm.
well through like family planning method, condoms, things like that. The birth control pill, unfortunately, is endocrine disrupting compounds. So if you look on the inserts that have the little tiny, tiny writing that comes with the birth control pill, it will actually list the ingredients. If you look those ingredients up, they are all classified as endocrine disrupting compounds. That means it is disrupting your endocrine system, which is what the birth control pill is supposed to do, because it
And
is
your
going to
endocrine
prevent
system
you from
is your
ovulating.
hormones. Your
Yeah, so
endocrine
what it
system is your
does,
hormones. So every hormone is being
yeah,
disrupted.
yeah, the endocrine system is your hormone system. So the birth control pill is to disrupt your hormone system,
Mm,
and by design, because we want
yeah.
to, by taking the birth control pill, the goal is to prevent me from ovulating. So it's preventing the release of the hormones that are going to trigger the release of the egg, and the whole cycle is then turned off. And when you turn off your cycle, you're not making progesterone, you're not making estrogen, you're making very little testosterone. And those things are going to trickle down and cause all the symptoms of low hormones. Now, you do have these artificial endocrine disruptors that do have some qualities that mimic the hormones. So you won't get all the symptoms of imbalance or low estrogen, low progesterone. You will get a lot of them. And they will compound over time because every cell in your body depends on estrogen. Like estrogen is important for your brain, it's important for your liver, it's important for your gut, it's important for your skin, like everything, your muscles. Think of it, name an organ, and estrogen is going to be important for it. Even your ears, like the cochlea inside your ears. It can be affected by low estrogen. You can start getting ringing in your ears. You can start getting itchy ears. It's crazy how many things are related. Your voice, your eyesight, you're having dry eyes. The list goes on and on. And so by interfering with your body's ability to make those hormones, you are like every day chipping away at your health. And unknowingly, women, after being on birth control pills for 5, 10, 15 years, bone loss is an issue. They have trouble with their skin. They have trouble with their digestion oftentimes. Their microbiome is messed up. So many problems can result from this shutting off of such an important system in our body.
Yeah, and they deplete a lot of key nutrients too. B
Oh, yeah.
vitamins, zinc, right? A lot of these key
Yeah, so B
nutrients.
vitamins, yeah, it's really horrible because like your body actually is going to not be able to absorb a lot of the key nutrients that you need for your overall health when you're taking these endocrine
Yeah,
disrupting compounds.
for
It's
sure.
really
Yeah,
it's
I think what people need
go
to
ahead.
understand is that really 99% of the drugs that are prescribed, really, if they should be prescribed, it should be for very short-term use and not
Yes,
long-term.
that is so true, and that's why like things that we are going to use as like a supplement. A lot of times, drugs are now being used as supplements.
Mm,
You really have to make sure that they are actually only building health and not taking away
yeah.
from it. Even a lot of the supplements on the market, like thank God you make some really great supplements that don't
Hmm.
have all of the unnecessary ingredients like the magnesium stearates and all the crap that goes into a lot of products there's these days. So we really have to look at everything we put in our body. And so a lot of times medications, you just get the bottle with the label on it. And unless you ask the pharmacist for the insert that goes with it, you don't get that. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times we figure if the doctor is going to recommend it and it's regulated by the pharmacy that it must be safe for us. But those are the things that are the least safe for us. Like I can't tell you how many each year, how many drugs are recalled after they've been out in the market for like death and adverse events. So it just because it's prescribed does not mean it's safe. A lot of times it's
Yeah.
not safe. And if you look at the side effects, just like look up anything you're taking right now, just Google the name of your medication and side effects. And the craziest thing that we see all the time is people come in and they're on a medication and then they get put on a second medication to manage the side effects of the first medication.
Right. Yeah, it happens all the time, right?
And
I mean,
it's so saddening.
yeah, and so yeah, it's a big deal, and especially as women go through perimenopause and menopause, right? There's a lot of women that are listening to this right now. They're going through those stages. They're starting to have some different symptoms. How do you look at that stage of life? Obviously, you're going through it personally, right?
Yeah, I'm in perimenopause right now. So the interesting thing is, so many women, every woman will go through this. So every woman who lives past age 40 is going to go through perimenopause. Every woman that lives past age average 51, 55 is going to go through menopause. They go to a doctor with the classic symptoms of perimenopause and menopause, and their doctors are like perplexed. I don't know how this is. Like, why is it such like a shocker for women and their doctors when this happens to every woman? It'd almost be like when kids go through puberty, if it was like their skin starts breaking out, like, oh my God, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, what's happening? Like, no, it's puberty. Of course, their voice is going to change. They're going to get a little awkward and lanky. Their skin's going to break out. Their hair is going to get greasy. Their armpits are going to start stinking. These are things that happen to every kid. And then when we're going through perimenopause, it's happening to every woman. She's going to have trouble sleeping. Her moods are going to change a little bit. Her periods are going to change. Those are like progesterone dropping symptoms, usually the first ones to go. And then she's going to have maybe a little bit of weight gain. Maybe she's not processing her carbs as well because she has more insulin resistance, a little more inflammation. Maybe her skin is reacting to products that she always used before, and now all of a sudden she's sensitive to them. This is changes in the skin microbiome due to estrogen change. Maybe we'll start to get some wrinkles, hair might start falling out. These are all normal symptoms of hormone decline, yet we're just like, oh, I don't know why that's happening. Maybe you need to take an antidepressant. Maybe you need to take a birth control pill. Maybe you need to take a pain pill. Maybe you need to be on GLP-1s, whatever it might be. Like, why don't we address what we know is happening, that the hormones are declining, because that's natural for them to decline. It's normal and natural. There's nothing wrong with you if you're losing your estrogen and progesterone and your testosterone in perimenopause. That is what's to be expected. Now, then why do we do hormone replacement? People are always like, well, if it's natural and normal and you're a naturopathic doctor, why are you recommending women get on hormones? Isn't that like unnatural? And I used to think that. So back when I was in school, naturopathic medical school, I was like, I am just going to use herbs. I'm just going to use nutrition. I'm going to have women do yoga. I'm going to do all those things, and I'm not going to use the medications, the hormones, right? And then I realized that thinking is only good for like back when the life expectancy was 50 years old, 45 years old. Women used to only live until menopause, and then they would die, and that would be the end of their life. But now our life, because of science and sanitation and the changes in our environment, women are living average age 88, and we're probably going to make that longer as we keep doing advances. And average age of perimenopause is like 35, 40. So that's half of our life that we would be living in this deficient state. And we understand that our hormones are important for our brain health and moods, inflammation levels, everything that our whole being is determined by our hormones. So why would we want someone to have a deficiency in their hormones? Why would we treat like a vitamin D deficiency and not treat estrogen deficiency? We treat thyroid deficiency. So if you have low thyroid for one reason or another, we're going to be like, oh, it's really important. You should get on thyroid medication. You shouldn't just deal with the symptoms. And so like anything that we're deficient in, insulin, like if you just don't make insulin, we're going to give you insulin. And that's a hormone. But female hormones, we're like, oh, you don't want to take those. That's bad for you. Or that's unnatural. But it's completely natural if you use natural hormones and you don't have additional crap in the hormones. And you use it in a way that is a physiological dose. So a normal dose for a woman, not a mega dose, because that's what we're seeing right now. Testosterone has become a very big like catchphrase. And it's really popular for women to go and get a pellet of like a mega dose of testosterone, like a man dose of testosterone. And they feel good for a little bit. Like they're like, oh, I got energy, I'm feeling good. And then their hair starts falling out. They start gaining weight. they start getting skin issues, and then they get put on like a Ozempic or something to help with the weight gain, and they get put on something to help with the hair. And it's like, whew, that's a slippery slope too. So you want to do it responsibly. You want to do replace your hormones in a most natural fashion so that you're just getting what you need so that you're back at baseline, not that you're overdosing anything. And the same thing with vitamins, the same thing with anything. You eat too much protein, you're going to gain weight. It's not, it's not like more is better of anything. It's balance. And that's what we talk about with hormones. We're talking about hormone balance, not hormone excess or deficiency.
Yeah, that's really key to know. When you're using hormones, you got to use the right dosages and kind of phase them, like time.
Yeah, and they're very Goldilocks. Like hormones are like, it's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Like too little estrogen, you have symptoms. Too much estrogen, you also have symptoms. And then when you have it just right, it's just right, and it has to be balanced with the progesterone and the testosterone. Because if you have too much testosterone and too little progesterone, now you're getting like belly fat gain, hair where you don't want it, irritability. But then you balance it out, and now you feel great. So it does take some trial and error. It's not like if you're a woman who's 54 years old and weigh 120 pounds, this is your dose. Everybody's different. And so it does take a little bit of trial and error. I always like to err on the side of going a little lower dose first and then increasing until you get to where you need to be.
Yeah. Now, when your team is coaching people.
Yeah, the other thing I will say, and because a lot of times when we'll be like, okay, great, I'm having these symptoms, let me take the hormones, but they neglect to do the diet, the exercise, the stress reduction, the toxin reduction. And they're like, the hormones aren't working. Well, it's not just the hormones, it's the hormones and the lifestyle together. Because if it was just the hormones, every 20-year-old would be like the peak of health, right? But no, the 20-year-olds have their hormones, but they might be eating crap, they might not be sleeping, they might be drinking alcohol, they might not be taking care of themselves. And so that's going to cause symptoms. And so you don't want to just do hormones, you don't want to just do lifestyle, you really want to do a combination of it all. And hormones won't work if you're stressed out and not sleeping. Hormones won't work if you're just eating a bunch of crap. You're still going to have symptoms. And so it's, like I said before, like every bite we take, every move we make, every thought we have, it's a hormonal experience. It will affect how you live and how you breathe. And if you do take care of things, then you'll need less hormones to feel your best.
Yeah, so it's a multi-therapeutic approach. You got to start with the lifestyle by keeping your stress under control, optimizing your sleep, having good blood sugar stability, keeping your toxic load down, and keeping your drainage pathways open. And getting good movement and building muscle. Those things are going to help your body naturally produce as much of the hormones as possible. But of course, as a woman is going through perimenopause and menopause,
you're just not going to do it with just lifestyle alone. And one thing I will note is, one thing I will note is
the level where they're going to really, really thrive typically, or at least a certain percentage of women are not. And that's where the bioidenticals come in and give them the extra bump.
Absolutely. And I will say, like, it can be very, very overwhelming for women to hear, okay, I've got to get my protein in, I've got to get my steps, I got to drink my water, I've got to avoid the toxins, I've got to make sure that my drainage pathways are open, I've got to dry brush, I've got to do castor oil packs. And it's overwhelming, especially when you're in a hormone depleted state. So for some women, sometimes we give them the hormones first and they're like, okay, now we're going to adjust your diet and now we're going to add in the exercise because they need like something just to get a little boost. And then for some women who they're not in that bad of a state, then we'll start them on the lifestyle and then add in the hormones. So it's not one way or another, because I get that question a lot. Like, do I need to do this before that? Well, it depends. It depends on what you are capable of and where your mindset is and where your energy levels are. But a lot of times the hormones can give you that little boost that you need, so that then you can start like cooking your own food and doing the things that you need to do to be healthier.
Yep. Now, when your team is working with people, are you guys testing hormones? Is there a particular test you like? Or do you feel like you can typically figure out what's going on based on questionnaires, health history? What would you say there?
Yeah, so we do both. So we do have, like in our Healthy Hormone Club, we include testing, because testing is always going to be best. If you can, the more information you can have, the better decisions you can make. But at the same time, some women, financial reasons or other, they don't want to do the test, they can't do the test. we can go off of symptoms and we can go off of questionnaires. And that might take a little more trial and error dialing in. And then
Yeah.
sometimes we can nail it right off the bat. It really depends on like what stage they're in as well, how long they've been doing, how long they've been having the imbalances, whether they've been on hormones before. But anytime I can test, I love to test just because it gives me that information. Now with hormones, you can test through blood, you can test through saliva, you can test through urine. For just knowing what your levels are, a saliva test is great because it's going to tell us our free and available levels of our estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, and testosterone. If you want to know a little more information, like how your hormones are breaking down, whether you need to detox different things, how your estrogen is breaking down, whether it's going down the more healthy pathways, then like the Dutch test, which is a dry urine test, that's a great test because it gives you a lot of information, but it is a little expensive. So if that information isn't necessary for you at the moment, then you can go with a saliva test, which is very inexpensive, or you can go with a blood test from your doctor that might be included in your insurance. You just have to tell your doctor that what you want tested because they will not test everything that you want, and they will also probably not test you at the right time of the month.
Yeah.
They'll just really
Yeah,
check
that's
that.
kind of the tricky thing with the Dutch is you got to take it. I believe it's like right after ovulation,
Yeah,
right?
it's true. Even with the saliva testing, if we can, we like to get it within 5 days of ovulation because that's going to give us that second peak of the hormones and give us a
Mhm.
little better idea of how much you're making. And then with testosterone, you always want to test that in the morning because that's when your levels are
Mm.
higher. So a lot of doctors don't know that, and they'll send you for a blood test at 3 p.m. on the 5th of the month. They don't even know what your cycle is, and so you might get not quite the right information.
Yeah, for sure. And then when somebody goes in and they get a prescription from a conventional medical doctor for, let's say, estrogen therapy, what is the difference between that and a bioidentical hormone therapy?
Well, you might get a prescription for bioidentical. So you can get bioidentical hormones prescribed, or you can get synthetic hormones to prescribe. So synthetic estrogen is generally made from horse urine, not human hormones, but horse hormones. There's also some that are just made from chemicals. And those are like hormones, but they're not
Mhm.
hormones. And so those, again, just like the birth control pill, they're kind of like hormone disruptors. They're not what your body is expecting. Bioidentical means biologically identical, usually made from a plant. So the wild yam and also the soybean have a component of them called diosgenin, and that has a very similar chemical backbone, like in chemistry class, how you had all the octagons with the little tags and the hydrogens and carbons coming off of them. Almost the same as our human hormones. So they have to take into a lab and they remove some of those hydrogens and carbons, and then it's exactly the chemical
Mm.
structure of progesterone, or exactly estradiol, or exactly estriol, or exactly DHEA. And so that is what your body is going to recognize as same as it had before. It can utilize that with no weird stuff happening. With the other thing with prescriptions is sometimes you'll get an oral estrogen prescribed, a pill that you'll take. And estrogen, when you actually take it by mouth, it has to go through the liver, and that creates some byproducts that can be dangerous, can cause clotting, can cause issues with your heart. There's an enzyme called MMP9 that's created that can cause issues with inflammation and down the road. So you don't want to do, I never recommend oral estrogen to anybody, bioidentical or synthetic. And transdermal or sublingual estrogen is going to be the best way to go because that bypasses the liver. And then any woman who has any issues with like clotting or any kind of stroke in the past or family history, a lot of times they're told they can't use hormone replacement therapy. But the truth is they can't use oral hormone replacement therapy. They definitely can
Okay.
use transdermal.
So transdermal, you're getting it in through the skin. It's a cream that you're putting on, and it's getting in through your skin. Because actually,
Yeah.
believe it or not, your skin is in a sense. I mean, it's pulling stuff in. Whatever you put on your skin is getting into your body. So you want to make sure things are as chemical free as possible. And
Yeah.
then sublingual, you're putting it under your tongue, and that actually gets right into the bloodstream. It dissolves right into the bloodstream there.
Yes, exactly. And so that bypasses the liver. And so it doesn't have to be broken down before it goes to your tissues. It goes to your tissues as the actual hormone. And so that's really makes it more effective. You actually can use less hormones when
Yeah.
it's not going through the digestive system as well.
Yeah. And what do you find with dosing? Do you have to play around a lot with dosing, or is there kind of like a standardized dosage that you find that's kind of a safe way to start?
Well, it really is. It varies quite a lot. Like there can be a
Yeah.
woman my exact height and weight, exact age, exact starting hormone levels, and I might be on double the amount of hormones that she
Mm,
is. It depends on your metabolism, it depends on your clearance, depends on your genetics, it depends on how your body absorbs things, and it also can depend on your stress levels, things like
yeah.
that as well. So, yeah, there is no like one dose. Some women use like tiny, tiny dose and it like changes their life, and other women have to use a lot more. So it
Right.
really is. I always like to start low, and I can usually tell just how people's like history of how they do with other medications, how they do with other supplements. Are they a super sensitive person? Like,
Mm.
can they take a bunch of supplements and just take a glass of water and they're good, or do they have to like really titrate up? And so you're usually there's clues for a lot of women to know whether they should start super low or whether they should go with like a moderate dose. What the good thing about transdermal hormones is you can add more. So like if you can use one dose for a week and then we can be like, okay, just use a little bit more. Where if you have a pill or you have a patch, it's a little harder to change the dosing. Uh-oh. Uh, I think he left. I think David's computer shut down or something. Let's see. right, I'm going to leave. I hear he's come back.